The sound of horse hooves shattered the silence of the deep night. More than 20 riders surged along the village path like an inky torrent. Narration: they move completely silently using the forbidden phantom mirage step. Their target is a low-earthen hut at the eastern edge of the village. Leader Zhang Xingquan raises his hand to give a command. The subordinates draw their swords, blue light flaring as they form a circle. The hut roof explodes outward. 2 figures shoot into the night sky. Duan Qingkong lands before the hut, sword tip pointing to the ground.
Junior brother 7, do you truly mean to show no mercy?
Senior brother, this is the sect leader's command. If you break my Deathgate formation, I'll let you go. Zhang Shengquan looks at his former revered senior brother, gaze mixing pain and unyielding resolve.
Gate master, the sect leader ordered! A subordinate beside him tries to object urgently.
Whatever happens, I'll take responsibility. Duan Qingkong laughs coldly, no warmth in his smile, only desolate resolve. Since he shows no mercy, don't blame me for being unrighteous. Forgive my offense. Duan Qingkong and Dong Xiaoro charge forward together, one ahead, one behind.
Narration: Dong Xiaoro is hit on the shoulder. She clenches her teeth to stay silent.
断庆空剑妻子踉跄，双眼充满愤怒。
He remembers his vow on Setting Sun Mountain to protect her forever.
Falling leaves! Setting sun!
Duan Qingkong hurls Dong Yoro out of the encirclement, then leaps high into the air, raising his sword.
Zhang Xingquan's face changes drastically. Full defense! No dodging!
Golden sword waves sweep outward, shattering the formation barrier instantly, knocking weaker cultivators to their knees. Duan Qingkong uses his last strength to fling his wife safety, then falls from the sky, his energy completely exhausted.
A faint smile actually appeared at the corner of Duan Qingkong's mouth. He slowly closed his eyes and never opened them again. A crisp sound of metal shattering came from within his body, echoing through the night sky. It was the death knell of his true essence orb burning out. He traded his soul, scattered and spirit dispersed, for a sliver of hope for his wife. No, Dong Xiaoru's scream tore through the night. She did not flee. Her husband had burned his life away for her. How could she live on alone? Zhang Shengchun limped over, dragging his wounded body, blood trickling from the corner of his lips. I'm sorry, senior brother is already gone. You. Go. I will never hunt you again. Dong Xiaoru gave a cold smile. There was no hatred in that smile, only a calm like utter despair. She looked up at Zhang Shengchun, the light already gone from her pupils. In her heart, she thought, Qingkong, wait for me. Zhang Shengchun turned and walked away. He had taken only 3 steps when a dull thud sounded behind him. He spun around. Dong Xiaoru had snatched a sword from a nearby black-clad man and drawn it across her own throat. Blood sprayed 3 feet. Her body fell like a broken kite, tumbling down. Zhang Shengquan rushed over and caught her collapsing form, his arms trembling. Her blood soaked through his black robes. Ruar! His tears struck the parched ground. Do you know? The first time I saw you on Setting Sun Mountain, there was no room in my heart for anyone else. But I was too late, just one step too late. Dong Xiaoru's fingers traced across the ground, leaving a line of blood characters. Zhang Shengchun recognized the writing, and his mind went blank. After a long while, he laid the couple side by side in a pit in the earth. A silver-white true essence orb condensed in his palm, blasting out a grave 2 meters deep. He buried them with his own hands, moving very slowly, as if burying half a lifetime of obsession. When it was done, he stood up and gazed toward the distant forest. From there came an extremely faint sound, as delicate as a young animal snapping a dry twig. Zhang Shengquan's hand went to his sword hilt, then slowly relaxed. He waved his men away. You go ahead. I'll take a look. The men took away 2 swords. Duan Qingkong's blade was none other than the Setting Sun sect's founding sword, the Setting Sun Sword. Zhang Shengkun stood alone at the edge of the forest. He knew who was hiding inside. From the moment he saw Dong Xiaoru's final glance, he knew there was one more person he should not kill tonight. That was senior brother's only bloodline, the life ruler had protected with her own. He looked into the pitch-black woods and smiled faintly. That smile held release and endless bitterness. He turned and walked away, his steps as heavy as if filled with lead. For a long, long time the night was so still you could hear blood seeping into the soil. A boy poked his head out from the bushes. His body was covered in mud and leaves, his fingers dug into the tree bark until they bled. There were no tears on his face, only a pair of eyes burning with hatred. Those eyes shone startlingly bright in the darkness, like two ghostly flames that refused to be extinguished. Dawn broke. Duan Chenfeng knelt before the earthen grave. There was no tombstone, only two mounds of freshly turned earth, exuding a mingled scent of blood and decay. He reached out his small, thin hand and stroked the cold, wet soil inch by inch. His fingertips touched tiny pebbles that embedded themselves under his nails, drawing threads of blood. He did not pull back. What was this little pain? Everything from last night was like a nightmare from which he could not wake. His father, a sword immortal wreathed in silver light. His mother, fallen in a pool of blood, Zhang Shengchuan's sword standing between them. But now, only these two silent mounds of yellow earth remained, and the dew-soaked topsoil. He did not cry. His tears had dried up in the night, leaving only a scorched emptiness in his eye sockets. Father! Mother! His voice was as hoarse as sandpaper scraping. Chenfeng is leaving. When I have avenged you, I will surely return to be with you. He kowtowed 3 times, his forehead pressing into the muddy ground, smearing his face with dust. When he stood up, his legs were numb. He steadied himself against an old locust tree nearby, the rough bark bit into his palm, stinging. After a few steps, he suddenly turned back and took a long, deep look. At last, a single tear fell, striking a blade of grass at his feet and shattering into several drops. It was soon dried by the wind, leaving not even a trace. Wind blew from all directions, tousling his disheveled hair and piercing his thin clothes. He hugged his arms and walked step by step out of the village entrance. The century-old locust tree grew smaller and smaller behind him, eventually shrinking into a blurry ink dot, vanishing at the end of the mountain path. Duan Chenfeng walked along the village road. He did not know where he was going, only that behind him was a homeland he could never return to. He was 12 years old this year. He had lived in seclusion with his parents for many years, had mastered the 5th form of the setting sun sword art, but his true essence orb was still yellow. In the eyes of true cultivation masters, this meager skill was less than an ant's. The sun rose to its zenith, then slowly slanted westward. His shadow shifted from beneath his feet to in front of him, stretching, shrinking, stretching again. Blisters had formed on the soles of his feet, and every step was excruciating. He took off his shoes, tore a strip from his clothes to wrap around his feet, and kept walking. He could not stop. If he stopped, he would remember the silver light that flew that night and the line of blood when his mother's throat was cut. Hunger gnawed at his stomach like a poisonous snake. He had not eaten for a day and a night. At first it was a cramping pain, then a numb spasm, and later even that sensation faded, leaving only a dizzying weakness that made the scenery before him sway like a blurred reflection in water. He arrived at Mulan Town, the only town for dozens of miles around. His father used to bring him here for roast chicken when he was alive. The aroma was still branded into his memory. The archway at the town entrance stood crooked, carved with the characters Mulan, most of the paint already peeled off. He stood in front of an inn, staring at the white steam rising from the steamer baskets, his feet rooted to the ground. The steam drifted upward, into his dry eye sockets, turning into a warm mist. His pockets were empty. His home was already a ruin. The money had long been buried in the rubble. He felt inside his clothes and found only a piece of broken porcelain, fallen from his mother's dressing table, its edge sharp, still carrying her scent. The innkeeper walked out of the shop. He was a round-faced man in his 40s, with frost at his temples and a greasy apron tied around his waist. He recognized Duan Chenfeng at once and hurried over. Chenfeng? Where's your father? Duan Chenfeng looked up at him, his eye sockets dry and aching. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. The innkeeper's gaze swept over his face and read a bottomless grief. That was not the look a child should have. It was the look of a soul hollowed out after a catastrophic disaster. You're hungry, right? Come in and have something to eat. The innkeeper reached out a hand to take his arm. Duan Chenfeng shook his head. He took a step back, turned, and walked away, his steps resolute. The innkeeper stood frozen for a moment, then ran back into the shop, grabbed a few silver coins, and chased after him, but the thin figure had already disappeared around the street corner. Duan Chenfeng emerged from the woods beside the road, glanced back at the shop, and turned away. He did not want to owe anyone a favor. If he did, he would never be able to repay it. In this world, there were too few things that could repay a life. When the sun was slanting westward, he sat down by the roadside, leaning against a withered locust tree. His legs felt like they did not belong to him. Every step dragged chains weighing 1,000 pounds. In the distance came the sound of wheels grinding over gravel and the snorting of mules and horses. A merchant caravan slowly approached, a dozen wagons lined up in a long column, with the Shu family banner fluttering on the shafts, cracking in the wind. The caravan stopped beside him. A middle-aged man stepped down from a wagon. He was about 50, with a kind face and graying temples. He wore a blue cloth robe, a white jade pendant at his waist, and walked with steady steps. He came up to Duan Chenfeng, crouched down, and took the boy's ice-cold little hand. The hand was bony, the blisters on the palm already scabbed over and cracked open again. "Child, what's wrong?" His voice was low and gentle, like the warmth of dying embers in a winter hearth. Duan Chenfeng looked up. He had not heard such a gentle tone in so long that he did not know how to respond. He saw several drivers behind the middle-aged man craning their necks to look, their eyes filled with curiosity and pity. "My surname is Shu Wentian." The man smiled, crow's feet gathering at the corners of his eyes. "Just call me Uncle Shu." "Uncle Shu." Duan Shenfeng's voice was as light as a spider's silk in the wind, breaking at the slightest pull. Shu Wentian studied him. The boy's clothes had no patches, but the fabric was of fine quality, and his fingers were slender, not like a farmer's child. But those eyes were black and bottomless, hiding something that did not belong to his age. It was not poverty, it was a hole left after having his heart gouged out. "Tell me, where are you going?" Duan Chenfeng's lips moved, then closed again. After a long moment he said, "I have no home." Shu Wentian's hand tightened. Those 4 words were too light, but they struck his heart with the weight of 1,000 pounds. He picked Duan Chenfeng up and carried him toward the wagon. The boy's body was as light as a withered leaf, his ribs pressing against Shu Wentian's arm. "Come on, come home with Uncle." Duan Chenfeng leaned into his embrace and closed his eyes. That embrace was broad and warm, so much like the memory of his father's arms, but he knew it was not his father, and never would be. His father was already buried in the soil of his hometown, and could never hold him again. Inside the wagon, pastries and clear water were laid out on the soft cushions. Duan Chenfeng grabbed a piece of pastry and stuffed it into his mouth, wolfing it down without any manners. He was truly starving. After eating 5 pieces in a row, he slowed down, took the water pouch Shu Wentian handed him, and took a gulp. Water spilled from the corner of his mouth, and he wiped it carelessly with his sleeve. "Eat slowly. Don't choke." Shu Wentian's palm landed on his back, patting gently, one pat after another. Duan Chenfeng's hand froze in midair. He stared out through the wagon curtain at the scenery rushing backward, undulating mountains, deep forests. Occasionally, a bird flew across the sky, its cry desolate. The road ahead stretched endlessly, its end unknown. He pressed his small face against the window frame, his gaze fixed on the distance. There lay his vengeance, and also the reason he had to live. The wheels rolled on, crushing fallen leaves on the road. The bells on the mules and horses jingled, mingling with the driver's shouts, carrying far into the twilight. Duan Chenfeng hugged his knees, clutching the piece of broken porcelain in his palm, gripping it tighter and tighter until his knuckles turned white. Shu Wentian sat beside him, watching the boy's silent profile, but did not press him. Some wounds needed time to be opened. He took a thin blanket and gently draped it over Duan Chenfeng's shoulders. "Sleep," he said. "I'll wake you when we arrive." Duan Chenfeng did not close his eyes. He kept staring out the window until the night swallowed the last trace of daylight. The carriage arrived at the seaside on the evening of the 3rd day. Salty, briny wind poured in through the window, carrying a faint, fishy sweetness. Duan Chenfeng poked his head out and saw the gray-blue sea merging with the sky in a distant line. A few seabirds circled low, letting out piercing cries. Several fishing boats were moored at the dock, their sails furled. The fishermen squatted on the shore, mending nets, pipes clenched between their teeth, smoke curling upward. "We'll rest here tonight and cross the sea tomorrow." Shu Wentian's voice came from outside the carriage, tinged with weariness. The convoy stopped in front of an inn. Duan Chenfeng jumped down from the carriage, his feet landing on the solid stone road, but he felt unsteady. The 3 days of jostling had rattled his bones, yet he didn't utter a single complaint. Shu Wentian noticed and nodded to himself. That night, Duan Chenfeng lay on the hard bed in the inn, tossing and turning, unable to sleep. From outside the window came the sound of waves crashing against the shore, once, then again, like some great beast panting in the darkness. He pulled out the shard of porcelain from his chest and examined it in the moonlight. On it was painted a broken plum blossom, his mother's favorite pattern. He pressed the shard against his chest and closed his eyes. After an unknown stretch of time, a strange noise came from outside the window. Extremely faint, like a cat stepping across roof tiles. Duan Chenfeng's eyes snapped open, his fingers clenching the corner of the blanket. Though his true essence orb was weak, it was enough for him to sense a chilling, killing intent closing in from all directions. From downstairs came the scraping sound of blades being drawn, followed by a muffled grunt. Duan Chenfeng rolled off the bed, his bare feet landing on the cold floor. He pushed open the window and saw in the inn's backyard several dark figures locked in combat with Shu Wentian's guards. Blades and shadows flashed under the moonlight. Blood droplets splattered on the blue bricks, blooming into dark flowers. "Uncle Shu!" he shouted, but his voice was torn apart by the night wind. One of the dark figures looked up at the sound, his gaze locking onto the second-floor window. With a flicker of movement, the figure shot up like a phantom and struck Duan Chenfeng's nape with a palm. Duan Shenfeng felt a sharp pain at the back of his head, his vision went black, and he lost consciousness. When he woke, he was jolting and swaying. Beneath him was cold stone. All around was pitch black, save for the occasional eerie green light flickering in the distance. The air reeked of decay mixed with saltiness, like a sunken ship hauled up from the seabed. He tried to move his hands and feet, only to find them bound tightly with rough rope that had chafed the skin on his wrists raw. Awake? A hoarse voice came from ahead, grating like metal scraping against stone. Duan Chenfeng looked up. By the faint green light, he saw a hunched old man sitting in front of him. The old man wore a tattered black robe, his eyes sunken and pupils murky yellow. Behind him stood a massive stone stele, engraved with 3 blood-red characters, Life-Locking Island. The strokes were sloppy, as if the writer had left his final words in extreme agony. No one who enters this island ever leaves alive. The old man grinned, revealing a mouthful of yellow-black teeth. You've come to die. Duan Chenfeng didn't answer. He surveyed his surroundings and realized he was inside a mountain. The walls were riddled with countless caves, each entrance glowing with faint green light. Those lights flickered on and off in the darkness, like countless ghostly eyes blinking. From afar came a low, mournful wail, whether wind passing through stone crevices or something else weeping, he couldn't tell. The old man dragged him into one of the caves, threw him into a corner and turned away. The footsteps faded, eventually swallowed by the endless darkness. Duan Chenfeng lay alone on the cold stone floor. The rope cut into his flesh, blood seeped from his wrists, dripping onto the stone with a faint drip-drip sound. He tried to struggle, but the more he moved, the tighter it became. The rope, soaked in blood, grew even tougher. Despair surged from all directions, flooding his mouth and nose, making it hard to breathe. He thought of his parents' graves, of Shu Wentian's warm embrace, of the bowl of water he never got to finish. Everything warm was slipping away from him. He was only 12 years old, and he hadn't yet learned how to survive alone in this world. Now he was about to lose his life. He closed his eyes, waiting for death to come. The cold of the stone floor seeped through his clothes, penetrating to his marrow. Time crawled, each breath stretching into a year. Just then, he sensed something unusual. From deep within the cave came an extremely faint humming. It wasn't the sound of wind or water. It was the resonance of an object. Duan Chenfeng listened closely. The humming came and went, its rhythm strange, as if calling out. He shifted his body, inching toward the source of the sound. The rough stones scraped his elbows and knees, leaving a dark red trail behind him. He didn't notice. After crawling about 3 jang, his hand touched a protruding stone ridge. The humming suddenly grew clearer, as if coming from beneath the ridge. He leaned in to look and saw, through a crack in the ridge, a faint purple glow. Duan Chenfeng's heart skipped a beat. Using his bound fingers, he pried at the edge of the stone ridge, putting all his strength into it, and managed to shift the stone an inch. The purple light flared, and a wave of icy, sinister energy burst from the crack, making him shiver. Huh? An aged voice echoed in his mind, not through his ears, but directly vibrating in the depths of his consciousness. The voice carried endless weariness, yet it couldn't hide a domineering pressure that seemed to look down on heaven and earth. Duan Chenfeng's body went rigid. He felt an invisible force sweep over him, like millions of fine needles piercing his skin all at once, then retreating instantly. That force was so immense that it made him feel like a speck of dust. Interesting. The voice spoke again, with a hint of amusement. A 12-year-old cultivator, yellow true essence, yet carrying the aura of the purple cloud pendant inside you. Boy, who are you? Duan Chenfeng clenched his teeth and didn't answer. His teeth chattered not from cold, but from fear. Though the owner of the voice remained unseen, it stirred a tremor from the depths of his soul. This was a pressure more terrifying than Zheng Shengquan's death formation, the instinctive shudder of a mortal facing an abyss. He remembered his father's words, a true strong man is not one who feels no fear, but one who, after feeling fear, can still grip his sword tightly. Not talking? The voice laughed again, this time with a trace of loneliness. I've been trapped here so long I've even forgotten my own name. They used to call me the Demon Lord, and some called me the Moral Heavenly Lord. Whatever. Names are just cages. Duan Chenfeng's eyes flew open. Moral Heavenly Lord? He had never heard that title, but the weight behind those 4 words made his heart pound wildly. The Demon Lord's voice deepened, as if talking to himself. That old fool, the Purple Cloud Heavenly Lord, said it was a sparring match, but he really wanted my life. I was cast down from the celestial realm, my physical body utterly destroyed, leaving only a wisp of my soul trapped in the soul-capturing flute. That was 3,000 years ago. He paused, his tone suddenly sharpening. In these 3,000 years, you are the first person to come before me. Not talking? The voice laughed, echoing in Duan Chenfeng's mind, shaking his head until it ached. It doesn't matter. You're going to die soon anyway. The barrier on Life-Locking Island is dissipating. Once it collapses completely, every living thing here will have their souls scattered. You, me, and those inhuman spirit immortals, none will escape. Duan Chenfeng's head shot up, He remembered his parents' fate, their true essence burning away, their souls scattered to the winds. But, the voice suddenly shifted, low and slow, as if mentioning something trivial. I can give you a chance to live. And I can give you the power to take revenge. Duan Chenfeng's pupils contracted sharply. The condition is, the voice paused, carrying a strange hint of a smile. Lend me your body. Borrow you for a moment? Duan Chenfeng's voice was hoarse, like sandpaper scraping across stone. He stared at the faint purple light in the crevice of the rock ridge, his pupils reflecting a dim glow, like two candles about to flicker out. The demon lord's laughter echoed in his mind, carrying the desolation forged from 3,000 years of solitude. Your body flows with the blood of the crippled sun sect and hides the aura of the purple cloud pendant. These two forces counteract and complement each other, making you the perfect cauldron vessel to harbor my remnant soul. Duan Chenfeng lowered his head, looking at his wrists, where hemp ropes had cut bloody marks. The blood vessels beneath his skin pulsed violently, each beat reminding him he was alive, but not for long. The barrier of life-locking island was dissipating. The demon lord was right. Once the barrier completely collapsed, everything here would turn to dust. He didn't want to die, at least, not now. I have a condition. Duan Chenfeng raised his eyes, his voice soft but unusually clear. You can borrow my body. But I keep control. You have your revenge. And I have mine. We each settle our own scores. The demon lord was silent for a moment. Interesting. When the voice spoke again, it had lost some of its mockery and gained a hint of seriousness. In 3,000 years, you're the first to dare negotiate with me. Those cultivators who broke into Life-Locking Island either knelt begging for mercy, or were scared out of their wits, their souls scattered and spirits dispersed. Boy, what's your name? Duan Chenfeng. Duan, the demon lord murmured, as if savoring the weight of that surname. Good. Duan Chenfeng, I accept. Control is yours. I'll only borrow a corner of your dantian to dwell in and a thread of your meridians to pass through. When I gather my soul again, that will be the time we part. One more condition. Duan Chenfeng clenched his fists, his nails digging into his palms. You cannot use my body to kill the innocent. The demon lord laughed, the sound shaking dust from the cave walls. The innocent? There are no innocent people in this world. But I agree. The word of the moral heavenly lord is heavier than 9 tripods. Before the words faded, the purple light in the rock crevice suddenly surged. A scorching force burst forth from the gap, like magma pouring into a glacier, charging straight into Duan Chenfeng's brow. He screamed. It wasn't physical pain. It was the agony of a soul being torn apart. Demon flame poured through his brow, burning along his meridians, leaving flesh intact, but boiling the inside like oil on snow. Duan Chenfeng curled up, his forehead pressed against the cold stone floor, a beastly growl escaping his throat. Hold on. The demon lord's voice echoed in the depths of his consciousness. If you can't, it's soul scattered and spirit dispersed. Duan Chenfeng bit through his teeth. Blood seeped from the corners of his mouth, dripping onto the stone, stained a strange crimson by the purple light. He remembered his father burning his true essence, his mother's resolute gaze as her neck was cut. Those images hammered into his mind like nails, keeping him clinging to the last shred of clarity. Pain. A pain worse than death. The demon flame coursed through his body for 7 cycles, like countless red-hot blades slicing repeatedly through his meridians. Every inch of his sea of chi was torn apart, then forcibly mended under the purple light's embrace. Duan Chenfeng's body convulsed violently, his 10 fingers scraping 10 bloody grooves into the stone floor, nails splitting without him even noticing. Circulate your true essence, the demon lord commanded. Don't resist. Let it merge in. Duan Chenfeng obeyed. He dropped all defenses, letting the demon flame surge in. In his dantian, the yellow true essence orb trembled violently, like a candle in the wind. The demon flame coiled around it, beginning to devour, consume, and reshape. Yellow faded, orange emerged. Orange hadn't settled. Red was born. Red blazed, blue appeared. In just 3 breaths, the true essence orb leaped across 3 realms, from yellow straight to blue. Blue light swirled in his dantian, warm as jade, yet containing power 10 times more formidable than before. Duan Chenfeng felt his meridians forcibly widened several times over. The true essence that had been as thin as a thread now surged like a river. Every pore on his body opened, greedily absorbing the sparse heaven-earth spiritual energy around him. But the change wasn't over. A wisp of dark purple energy separated from the true essence orb, intertwining with the demon flame, and condensed into a small, black-purple seal in his sea of consciousness. The seal was ancient in shape like an open vertical eye, floating coldly in the depths of his awareness. This is the soul-sealing seal. The demon lord's voice had grown much weaker. All my lifelong cultivation is within it. Your current realm is too low. You can only unlock the first layer of the seal. As your cultivation advances, the seal will open layer by layer. Duan Chenfeng gasped, cold sweat soaking his clothes. He tried to circulate his true essence. Blue energy flowed along his meridians, and wherever it passed, fatigue vanished and wounds stopped bleeding. He raised his hand and pulled, the hemp ropes binding his wrists snapped inch by inch, turning to ash. The purple cloud pendant inside you. The demon lord's voice grew fainter, like a candle in the wind. Beware of the purple cloud, heavenly lord. That old bastard harmed me back then, all for the spatial power within the purple cloud pendant. The pendant on you is his eye and his thorn. Duan Shenfeng jerked his head up. What do you mean? It means. The demon lord's voice was now barely a whisper. The calamities of your life are just beginning. On the night of the blood moon, the first person you kill will be the one you least want to kill. When you stand under the 9-layered heavenly tribulation, remember, do not ascend. That is not the path to heaven. It is. The voice cut off abruptly. The purple light in the cave suddenly retracted, shrinking back into the depths of the rock crevice, silent. Duan Chenfeng rushed to the rock ridge, reaching out to touch it, only to feel a cold stone. The stone was utterly ordinary with no trace of strangeness left. He stood frozen, blue true essence slowly circulating in his body, reminding him that what had just happened was no illusion. Duan Chenfeng closed his eyes. In his mind, the soul-sealing seal floated quietly, like a sleeping eye. He tried to sense it but hit an invisible wall. The seal was firmly locked, revealing only a faint, barely perceptible aura. The demon lord was dead. Or rather, completely dissipated. Suddenly, a violent tremor came from outside the cave. Rocks fell from the ceiling, smashing into dust on the ground. Distant, agonized wails echoed the cries of the spirit immortals trapped on life-locking island as the barrier collapsed. The entire mountain shook, and jagged cracks split the stone walls. Duan Chenfeng opened his eyes. A flash of black-purple light flickered in the depths of his pupils. He clenched his fists, blue true essence surging through his meridians, a sense of power filling every limb. He turned and walked out of the cave. Duan Chenfeng burst out of the cave, and what hit him wasn't the sea breeze, but a mix of sulfur and scorched air. The entire mountain belly was collapsing. Massive boulders fell from the dome, crashing into the tunnel and shattering into powder. The faint green lights embedded in the cliff faces flickered wildly, like a swarm of startled eyes. In the distance, mournful wails rose and fell, the death throes of spirit immortals as the barrier crumbled. Duan Chenfeng sprinted back along the path he had come. Blue true essence flowed through his meridians, multiplying his speed several times over. He stepped over cracked flagstones, dodged falling stone pillars, his body movement technique so fast it left only an afterimage. At the turn ahead, a hunched figure blocked the way. It was the old warden. But now he was no longer hunched, standing straight. He was 8 feet tall. His black robe flapped wildly in the heat, revealing stark white bones beneath. His face was peeling, flesh falling off in chunks to the ground, exposing dark eye sockets and 2 rows of sharp teeth. Trying to leave? The old man's voice had changed, no longer a hoarse human sound, but a screech like metal scraping bone. Life-locking island has no exit. That's the rule. Duan Shenfeng stopped, 3 jong from the old man. He could feel the deathly qi surging from the other, a power more yin-cold than the Death Gate array. Rules? Duan Shenfeng's voice was cold as ice. Your rules don't apply to me. The old man laughed, the sound shaking loose stones from the surrounding walls. He raised a hand and waved, and a green light shot from his palm straight for Duan Shenfeng's throat. Duan Shenfeng sidestepped. The green light grazed his neck and flew past, corroding a 3-foot-deep hole in the stone wall, its edges smoking with a foul black vapor. If that strike had landed, his head would have vaporized on the spot. Interesting? The old man grinned, revealing a mouthful of sharp teeth. Blue true essence? You went in with yellow, came out blue. What did that old thing in the cave give you? Duan Chenfeng didn't answer. He channeled his true essence, blue currents gathering in both palms, and launched his first attack. A single punch. The fist wind, wrapped in blue true essence, carved an arc of light through the air with the sound of breaking air, aimed straight at the old man's face. The old man raised an arm to block. The 2 forces collided with a dull, explosive sound. Duan Chenfeng was knocked back 3 steps, but the old man only swayed. Good strength, but too green. The old man pressed forward, both palms striking in rapid succession, green light surging like a tide. Duan Chenfeng dodged left and right, his body movement technique pushed to the limit, but a green light still grazed his shoulder. The flesh instantly charred, and a heart-piercing pain shot through him. He gritted his teeth and refused to retreat, a wild fighting spirit blazing in his eyes. In his sea of consciousness, the soul seal brand suddenly trembled. A strange power surged from the brand, intertwining and merging with his blue true essence. Duan Chenfeng felt his palm grow hot and a purple-black chi thread coiled around his fist. He swung instinctively, purple-black-blue light interweaving, and slammed heavily into the old man's chest. The old man screamed, flew backward, and crashed into the stone wall 10 zhang away. The wall shattered on impact, embedding him in it. A bowl-sized, charred hole gaped in his chest, its edges smoking with purple-black vapor. What power is this? The old man's eyes widened, the green light within them rapidly dimming. Soul Seal demonic art. Before he could finish, his head drooped, and he dissolved into a pool of foul black water. Duan Chenfeng panted, looking down at his own palm. The purple-black chi threads had dissipated, but the lingering resonance of that power still echoed through his meridians yin-cold and overbearing. He knew it was the Demon Lord's power leaking out after the first layer of the Soul Seal brand loosened. More footsteps came from ahead in the tunnel. Rapid, chaotic, at least 7 or 8 spirit immortals were rushing this way. Duan Chenfeng turned and ran. He didn't want to linger. The barrier was about to collapse, the entire island was sinking, and every extra second meant more danger. He sprinted along the tunnel, blue true essence flooding his legs, his speed like a bolt of blue lightning. Light appeared ahead. The exit. Duan Chenfeng burst out of the mountain belly, squinting against the blinding skylight. He stood halfway up the mountain, below him a steep cliff face, and below that churning black waves. Life-locking island was disintegrating. The earth split into countless fissures, magma erupting from the depths, staining the island blood red. He leaped. Mid-air, he channeled his true essence, blue currents gathering under his feet to slow his fall. He landed on a reef rock at the base of the cliff, his knees absorbing the impact with a dull thud, but he stood steady. Ahead was the beach. Black gravel rolled in the heat like countless writhing worms. Duan Chenfeng sprinted across the scorching sand, the roar of collapsing mountains behind him. A green light shot at him from behind. He didn't turn. He struck back with one palm, purple-black-blue light interweaving, shattering the green light on contact. Fragments splattered onto the sand, sizzling. 2 more green lights came. He struck left and right, dispersing them all. At the end of the beach lay a beached boat. Its hull was more than half rotted, but it was still the only tool to escape this hell. Duan Chenfeng lunged to the boat, grabbed the gunwale with both hands, and exploded with blue true essence, shoving the small vessel into the water. He flipped into the cabin, grabbed a broken oar, and rowed with all his might. The waves were fierce, pushing the boat back to shore again and again. Duan Chenfeng gritted his teeth, blue true essence flooding his arms, each stroke carrying the force of 1,000 jun. Finally, the boat broke free of the shore's whirlpool and headed into the deep sea. He stopped rowing and looked back. Life-locking island was burning before his eyes, magma and flames intertwined, dyeing half the sky red. The mountain belly had completely collapsed, the wails of the spirit immortals drowned in the roar. The island, like a dying beast, slowly sank into the sea. Duan Chenfeng stood on the rocking boat. Behind him, the island burned. Ahead, an endless vast ocean. Sky and sea merged into one line, gray-blue with no end in sight. He gripped the oar, his knuckles white. Wind blew across the sea, carrying a salty, biting chill, stirring his tattered clothes and scattering the messy hair on his forehead. The road ahead was boundless. The way home was severed. He lowered his head, gripped the oar again, and rowed one stroke, then another toward the unknown distance.